Hi, we've teamed up with UK Auto Claims to see if you could be eligible to score thousands in compensation. If you've had any cars, vans or motorbikes on finance between 2007 and 2021, go to ukautoclaims.co.uk to start your free simple check. Loads of you will have overpaid and payouts could be worth thousands, so you've got to look into it. Hit up the link below and check now for free.
Yes, guys, Marty from AFTV here with you tonight, hosting the show. We have got an absolutely awesome show lined up with 4 fantastic guests who are going to jump on very shortly. If you haven't already, please subscribe, please like, please hit us up in the comments, please get in the super chats. This is going to be a great night. We've got loads in store for you. We're going to be going through the season. We're going to be going through the transfers. We're going to be going through the upcoming stuff at Arsenal Football Club. So we have got on tonight, we've got Dan Potts, we've got Kenya, we've got Olivia. Dan Potts in the building. How you doing, my man?
Very well, bro. Big up to you. Big up to Kenya. Big up to the chat. Make sure you hit like and subscribe. Let's get into it, man. Come on.
Big up, Kenya. How are you?
Yeah, good. How are you guys? You good?
Very well. Fantastic. Buzzing to be hosting my first live show. So, yeah, go easy on me in the comments.
Better do good, man. Otherwise, getting the sack, mate.
Yeah, that's it. So, look, I mean, what the theme is tonight, we're going to be going through speaking about last season and how you guys felt the season went. I think there's kind of 3 openings for it. There's obviously the season wasn't good enough. The Arteta out. The second one being the season, was average, and maybe Arteta in and give him the next season. And then obviously, the third one that I have heard is, people are completely happy with the process, trusting the process, and next year, as long as there is progress. So, Dan, I'm going to start with you first. And I'm aware that you're a bit time bound today, so you're going to be with us for about half an hour. So I'm going to start with you, Dan, and ask sort of your genuine thoughts and feelings about the season that we've had, and honestly how you see it and how this sets us up and where we go on from here.
Yeah, so look, I've been quite vocal about how I believe this season was going to pan out. And if I'm honest with you, a lot of people were kind of not hearing it and sort of saying, you're just getting on the back of everyone. But I feel like the pressure was on this season to deliver. And even more so now, in my opinion. I think we're done with this process. We're done with this time now. Give it time. Give it a few more seasons. It's time to deliver. And I thought it was time to deliver season just gone. It's definitely time to deliver in the one we're about to come into next. But for me, it was time to win something. And people have said to me, it's not easy to win a Premier League. I appreciate that. It's not easy to win a Champions League. I totally appreciate that. But when I'm looking at managers that are like as inexperienced as Mikel Arteta, that are now winning trophies within 1 year, 2 years of being in a club, I'm kind of thinking, was this squad good enough to win a Premier League? Not in my opinion. However, it was definitely good enough to win a trophy. When I see Ten Hag doing it and Ange doing it and Eddie Howe doing it and Glasner doing it and potentially Maresca doing it tomorrow night, that kind of sits in my stomach and leaves a sour taste in my mouth, if I'm honest. So I feel like we should have delivered. I wasn't happy with either of the transfer windows. I don't feel like the in-game management at times helped things. And as much as I can appreciate injuries and red cards have been unkind to us, I don't really use it as an excuse because I feel like it's part of the game and you have to prepare for that. So when I'm hearing that we have injuries but we're doing nothing about it, I can't really feel too sorry for the club. And when we're hearing that red cards are massively important to what's happened here, maybe we need to look at why we're getting those red cards in and start to look at the discipline issue if there is one. I don't believe there is one. I think it was just stupid red cards, but we need to look at that. So I've got to be honest, I can't say I'm massively impressed by what I saw this coming season, and I'm seeing people rating it with quite low scores. And I kind of get why, Marty. I can't lie to you. I can't believe anybody would look at this season and give it an 8, 9 or a 10 out of 10 because we're trophyless. And as much as I appreciate that we did well in the Champions League, we failed in every other hurdle in the other trophies. We weren't in a title race for the whole of this season. We weren't in the FA Cup or Carabao Cup getting anywhere near where we believe we should be, and that's lifting it. So we go 5 years without a trophy. And if I'm honest with you, I need to see us delivering now. And Mikel's under a lot of pressure. Unfortunately, Berta has just walked in the door and he's going to be under a lot of pressure. And later on in the show, I'm sure we'll get into it. But it's a massive, massive summer for Arsenal again, man.
So I'm just aware super chats come in from Stephen saying the squad was too small to win anything. What's your thoughts on that, Dan?
I think it was small to go and compete in all 4 trophies. I don't think it was small enough to not to win anything though.
Yeah.
Because we got to 2 semi-finals. We weren't able to get across the line, but we should have been able to. You know, we should have been able to win the Carabao Cup. We should have had a squad that was better than Newcastle's, and we should have been able to give Liverpool a really good game in the final. And I felt like we should have had a squad that was good enough to compete for the Premier League, but it turns out that we didn't. So I'll be honest, I felt like we let ourselves down massively in the summer and January. And to answer that super chat, if we do believe that that is not the case, then why? Because we're 5 years in, £800 million or whatever it is, 690 million, if you want to be exact, I think it is. And 21 players now that we've bought since Arteta's got here. We should have a squad good enough to go and win a trophy. Now, we might have not have one that's enough to go and be better. I actually think Liverpool do have a better squad than Arsenal. I've got to be honest. I actually do. And I think that at the start of this season, everyone tipping Man City was probably right because of what Man City had done in the previous 3 or 4 years. But I don't believe that Arsenal's squad was not good enough to get across the line. I've seen Ten Hag win trophies with that Man United squad that's just come 15th in the league. So don't tell me that our squad's worse than Newcastle's and Manchester United's. Like in the league, we're finishing above these guys that are winning trophies. Is our squad in Palace? You know, so when people say the squad's not good enough to win a trophy, but I'm seeing Palace and Newcastle and potentially Chelsea, Tottenham in silverware, I can't have that, man. So we've got to look at improving the squad for sure, but we've also got it's time to deliver with this manager now.
Definitely, and I think you raised a really interesting point there, Dan. And for me, it is very important that, let's say we had these players as Gyokeres, Zubimendi, and all these players in the summer, that we don't end up at the back end of next season with the same problems rearing their ugly head. And that would definitely very much suggest to me that it's a management situation, it's a stylistical situation with that, and also it's a confidence issue that Arsenal Football Club have and can't get it over the line. So, Kenya, great to have you here.
Hello, guys. How are you? Right?
Yeah, all good, really good. So, I'd just like to bring you in, Kenya, and ask you the same question that I've asked Dan. So, how do you think? What's your take on last season? How it went, and ultimately at the end of it, where we finished, and what you want moving into next season?
Yeah, I think, to be honest, I think Dan summed it up perfectly. I personally agree with him. I was arguing with some of the AFTV production guys at the time, saying that for me, it's a 3 out of 10 season. Yeah. I think a lot of people get carried away by big results. Real Madrid was a great result. Man City was a great, big result. But what's there to show for it at the end? Just a feel-good moment in the season. And that's what this season has been. It's maybe been a few feel-good moments, and there's been nothing of real substance to say, actually, those wins where we did beat Real Madrid over 2 legs, those wins against PSV Sporting, etc., wins over Man City, not losing to anyone in the Big Six, there's nothing to show for it. And I agree with Dan. We approached the season wrong. We went into the summer transfer window, what I say, quite arrogantly, and we looked at it like we nearly won the league with literally no striker. We nearly won the league with this person and that person. Instead of saying, actually, that wasn't enough, and look how close we were, instead of trying to rectify the situation, we almost were like, okay, we just need a defender. We just need another midfielder. I'm going to get rid of all these attackers that I don't really use, but are actually good squad depth for moments that, you might have injuries or moments in cup competitions. And we approached that window completely wrong, in my opinion. And it showed throughout the season. Moments where, someone like, they're not popular names, but someone like a Fabio Vieira, where he's actually someone that Mikel Arteta genuinely trusts. He sent him out on loan. And like the one time where you're like, rah, this guy could actually be of use in the squad because Saka's out and Martin Odegaard's out. He's nowhere to be seen because we sent him out. So I think we failed to prepare for this season. And I don't really know the exact reasons why. I put it down to a bit of arrogance. I put it down to bad preparation, things of like, well, this is my target. So for example, Sesko, we know for a long time that Arteta and Edu really liked Sesko. But we knew that we couldn't get him in the summer. There should have been a backup plan to that. Where's the backup plans? Where's the plan Bs for when your number one target or the way you want to play in a game doesn't work? And to me, it's been a season to forget. If I'm being very honest, I just
So
want
do you
to
think?
move on.
I think everyone does. I mean,
Yeah,
personally, I'm
yeah,
really looking forward to next season. I'm really looking forward to the transfer window. And obviously, this is a do or die season for Mikel Arteta. I generally believe next season, if he doesn't get it right, I'd like to see him pull himself out of that hole. I don't even think Houdini could. It's going to
yeah,
be there's going to be a lot of pressure on him, and
yeah,
there's going to be a lot of people calling for his head. I mean, Arsenal Football Club, the expectations of silverware with the fans, trophies, and winning stuff consistently is there, and especially when you've had that amount of money and you've had the time for this process. Because with this process as well, this is Mikel Arteta's team. Let's not forget, apart from
yeah.
Martinelli and Saka, every single player in that squad is a player that
Yeah,
he's brought into this club.
they're his guys. That's why,
Yeah,
like, for me, I don't really see much excuse. We can talk about injuries, but then I can also say to you, did you prepare for those injuries? And I look at the
yeah,
midfield and I look at the attack and I say no to that. The
yeah,
defense, that's where I can say, okay, you're very unlucky. Tomiyasu, Calafiori, Zinchenko, Tierney, etc. All of those guys are out injured. That's very
yeah.
unlucky. But midfield, if Rice or Partey is injured, you've just got
I mean,
Jorginho. If
yeah,
Odegaard's injured, who's coming in for him? Do you know what I mean? Like we've been actually kind of lucky in the sense that Ethan and Miles Lewis-Skelly have just blown us out of the water with how good they've been. But
yeah.
if I'm being honest, I just we've massively failed to prepare, and it's let us down. If I'm being honest.
Fail to prepare, prepare to fail. That
Yeah,
old
yeah,
chestnut. So Dan, obviously moving forward into the transfer window. I mean, there's been talks of Mbueno. Obviously, the Gyokeres, I've heard that's 80% complete. I've heard it's 90%. I also heard something really interesting as well. That came out that his girlfriend is apparently turning around and saying that she's going to do everything within her power to make sure that he stays at Sporting Lisbon for another season. Now, we've just had a super chat come up. Sorry, production,
yes.
could you just...
Some
Oh, that's
Canadian
it.
green.
So watch Sesko a lot, plays like Darwin Núñez, stay away. Dan, what do you think of this situation with obviously the Gyokeres? He's got fantastic numbers, 53 goals in all competitions and 26 assists, I believe. He looks like he's got the numbers. He looks the part for me. I think he'd look great in an Arsenal shirt, and I think he could definitely do the business on the pitch. What's your take on that?
My take is he's the guy, bro.
Yeah,
He's the guy that I want. I mean, Isak was always on my list, but I think it's just unobtainable, if I'm honest. Particularly now they've definitely got Champions League football. I know that you say that his missus wants to stay in Portugal. I'm sure that does have a massive factor of where their family are happy. But for Victor Gyokeres, he's already pretty much said goodbye now to Sporting Lisbon. So it's a matter of where he goes, not if he leaves. I think Arsenal are the favourite and front runners thanks to Andrea Berta, if you believe everything that you read, because I feel like Sesko was on our radar as the number one target for probably the best part of 12 to 18 months now, if I'm honest. I think Arteta's liked the look of Benjamin Sesko. Now, the reason I would prefer Gyokeres is because he's ready now. Now, Sesko doesn't look like a player that can get us across the line. I don't really look at that player and think, yeah, that leaves Havertz dead in the water. Havertz got 9 goals and has been injured for 4 months. This guy got 13 goals in the Bundesliga. So I'm not looking at that thinking, wow, this is the guy that's the bagsman we need. Now, potentially, he could be in a couple of years. We might look at that and go, oh, yeah, maybe we should have got him. He looks really good now. I'm not doubting that. But if you ask me who's ready now, it's got to be Victor Gyokeres for me, because I look at what he's done in the last 3 seasons, and people don't actually like to talk about championship players. But for the first time in the best part of a couple of decades, I actually look now and think, yeah, there's a definite level between the quality of the Premier League and the Championship sides from what we've seen. But in terms of some of the player quality that's come from there, I think when you look at Eze and Elise and you look at players like Ivan Toney and even Mitrovic, who were all banging up goals in the Champions League, yeah, let's see if you can do it in the Prem, and they all absolutely flew. Even Crystal Palace's kind of scouting network now, looking at Adam Wharton from Blackburn and these kind of guys, I think they've all been proven that Championship players exist. And Gyokeres pretty much got your Coventry to the playoff final. Right. Then he goes to Sporting Lisbon and he absolutely smashes it. And everyone thinks, yeah, calm down. It's one season. It's Portuguese league. It's easy. It's a farmers league. Then he blitzes it again. Then he's doing it in the Champions League. He's already previously done it in the Europa League. And now he's been called up for his country. And he's also scoring. So I've got to be honest. I think it's a no-brainer. I look at us paying 65 M's and 290 a week for Kai Havertz. You can definitely afford Victor Gyokeres for 70 million euros plus whatever you're going to pay him a week. And if I'm honest with you, if we end up with Sesko or one of the other guys ahead of Gyokeres, I will be disappointed. Not because I don't rate these players, because I feel like wherever Gyokeres goes, he'll deliver, and I need him to be in an Arsenal shirt, man.
Yeah, definitely. So we just had another super chat come in from Abdullah Abu Hussein. Sesko is young, technical, agile in tight spaces, can play as a 10. Victor probably has more goal assists, but 16 to 19 Premier League teams play us with a low block. I'm not sure how he adapts to that versus Portugal, but we need a 15-goal winger alongside. I think that's a great comment and something that I know that, you know, there's been talk of Rodrigo, there's been talk of Eze, there's been talk of Mbeumo who can play across the front three. Kenya,
Yeah.
what do you think of that? What's your take on that?
Again, I have to agree with Dan. He's like, you know, he's spitting facts, man. I personally think I like
Lampard spitting bars for days.
He's spitting the facts. I like Sesko. Sesko is good. But is Sesko going to take me to win the Premier League? Is he going to win me the Champions League? I don't know. I'm not certain. As Dan said, he's only scored 13 goals in the Bundesliga. That does worry me. Like, I'm not going to lie. These are things that we have to factor in. And I know people say things. I saw a comment this guy said about Isak and how a lot of people said the same things about Isak. That's a very fair point as well. But I just think we're not in a place of privilege where we can wait a year or 2 years for someone to develop. We actually need someone now. And I think one thing I really like about Gyokeres as well is if you look at all the goals he scores, he basically creates all of his goals that he scores. Sporting are a highly transitional team. It's just like one long pass to this guy. He's taken on about 3 defenders and then he's got a goalkeeper ahead of him. You look at him, what he's done. You look what he does in the Champions League. I think he scored a hat-trick against Man City. Do you know what I mean? You look at what he does for the international team. There's times where he benches Alexander Isak, who's an incredible striker, and we see what he's done in our league. And I watched him for Coventry as well. He single-handedly got Coventry to that playoff final. He was their best player by a country mile. Players like Ellis Sims, Jay Da Silva, all those other players were like, it's a shadow of what he was compared to them. And I just think, look, we can buy him and he could flop, but I just think for about £60 million, that's nothing. That's nothing in today's market. I'd rather buy him and see if it works. And the best thing that could happen is it does work. He bangs goals, he works. The worst thing that doesn't happen is we're now having to look for something else. But I just think we've spent more money on players that aren't even in that aren't even a proper number 9. Yeah. I just don't think we should approach this with fear. It's something that now it's a do or die moment. You have to go and stick your neck out because we have kind of left ourselves in this situation of, you know, this is something that should have been rectified when Aubameyang left, and we haven't. It's years on now. We still haven't sorted it out. I really like Victor Gyokeres, man. I can't really see an issue with him, why we shouldn't get him, in my opinion.
Do you know what? And I completely agree with that. Like that, the Benjamin Sesko, 13 goals in the Bundesliga all season. That just doesn't do it for me. And I think Arteta needs this man right now. Not next season he's going to be a great player, or we'll see if he beds in. You need a player that is hitting the ground running 100%. There just isn't the time for that at this football club because it's just going to go one way, and that is not in a good way at all. So
exactly. You know what? Before you say something else, I want to cut you off and say that as well. Benjamin Sesko this season, RB Leipzig have had a very poor season. They should have been in the Champions League this season. They finished, I think, 7th. Now, that's another moment where I look at, like, can he do it under pressure? You're coming into a team with a fan base that are, at the moment, the emotions are heightened because we haven't done what we want to do. We haven't won the league. We haven't won the Champions League or any other trophy, really. And it's like, if you're in the Bundesliga and things like being in a top 4 race is not seeing the best of you, will you be able to cope with the pressure of being in a title race? Arsenal fans are going to expect you to score in almost every game, to be influential in those big moments. And these are the worries that I have. These are the worries that I do have. I look at his season and I'm like, that RB Leipzig team's good. You got Xavi Simons in that team as well. And I'm just like, the goal ratio isn't I don't know. It's something that bothers me. I'm not going to lie. I thought I'd just mention that as well.
No, definitely. You make a really good point. And something I'm going to ask both of you as well. And obviously, we spoke about Gyokeres and being 60 million quid. Obviously, it's a heck of a lot of money. But in today's market, it's peanuts. I mean, when you look at Alexander Isak is being touted around at 120, 140. Some people say 150 million. You know, you can go and buy Gyokeres, Zubimendi. You know, he's talking him 50 million quid. You know, there was a time, I think people were saying, oh, we need 300, 400 million to get, you know, probably 2 or 3 decent players in. But buying a player like that at that sort of money looks like we'll be able to get who we need. So Department of Agriculture has just brought in a super chat. Sesko equals Havertz. We need a different choice for rotation like Gyokeres. Dan.
To be honest with you, I think Sesko might even be an upgrade on Havertz. I think he can strike a ball a lot better. Yeah, I think he can strike a ball a lot better. I think he's got definitely more of an aerial threat. I've seen Havertz miss from 1 yard against Newcastle and Man United. I don't think Sesko would do that. However, I don't look at it and go, wow, that means Havertz is in the bin, rah, rah, rah. What that would do, and I think why Arteta wants Sesko ahead of Gyokeres, it seems, or has done previously, if not until now, is because I still believe that Havertz is allowing a rotation option, whereas Gyokeres is definitely the star. Like Sesko, for me, might not quite be ready at times, but Havertz might be ready to be in the starting lineup. I don't think he's good enough to take us across the line, but he certainly has contributed in the last few seasons. And I look at what Sesko's done in the Bundesliga. Look, I'm not saying that it's shocking what he's done, because 13 goals is fair, right? For a young striker, that's fair. But other than Harry Kane, who I've heard of, and Guirassy, who I've heard of, Guirassy's got more goals. Patrick Schick's got more goals. Burkhardt, who I don't know from Mainz, has got more goals. Kleindienst has got more goals for Mönchengladbach. Marmouche left him when? January? He scored more goals than him. Ekatike, who's linked with Chelsea, he scored more goals than him, and so has Demirovic. So I've got to be honest, when you're 9th on the list of Bundesliga, it doesn't excite me. I'm not saying he's a bad player. I'm really not. Gyokeres has killed it for the last couple of seasons, and for me, it absolutely has to be him. And I think the Havertz scenario is a really big question mark for me now, because this signing was always a strange one. And at 65 M's, 290 a week, when Jesus was 50 M's and 265 a week, he's now got 2 backup strikers there that are earning an unbelievable amount of money. So when you're on that much a week, you have to be involved in the squad somehow. And he's now got to try to work out what he does with Kai Havertz if somebody like this comes in, because he's got 2 options. He either brings him on as a sub and utilizes him as a kind of rotation piece, or he drops him back into midfield. And if he does the latter, I'm kind of done.
All right, so that's interesting, Dan. I'm going to come to you, Kenya, with this. So for me, the Havertz option, if you're playing a Gyokeres, obviously Odegaard's come under a lot of criticism this season for some of his performances. Now, would the Havertz option be a way to play in a slightly different style, i.e. putting him in Odegaard's position and playing him with a Gyokeres? Do you think that provides us with something different, or for you, Kenya, is Havertz not a player that you want on the pitch at all?
You see, I think I don't actually mind if we were to play Gyokeres and Havertz together. This is if we were to get Gyokeres. I wouldn't necessarily be against it, but I would prefer for Odegaard to start based on what Gyokeres' strong points are. If you watch him at Sporting, he gets just a lot of long deliveries from fullback areas, etc. And I think that's one thing Odegaard is good at. He's good at pinpoint passes and stuff like that. I do think I look at that Havertz and I'm like, I just remember when we played Newcastle, Havertz came in for Odegaard. There's just no creativity in that midfield now. And then it kind of goes back to square one of we're overbearing Saka. We're almost looking at Saka to be the main creator of the team, where I personally feel like the whole team needs to be this fluid creator for this said striker that we want to get. I mean, it's something that we can consider. I'm not ruling it out, but it's not something that I want to see every week. It should be more of I don't know. It depends on the opponent that we're going to face, in my opinion. We got to see what works. But I just don't know. Havertz is he's not creative enough for me to be like, yeah, it's
if we see him, let me say, if we see him in this attacking midfield role, I'm going to really lose it, if I'm honest with you. This guy has proven he can be a rotation piece in the 9. And do you know what? He's contributed quite well. I think there's a time and a place I see where, do you remember when we used to have Olivier Giroud coming on with 25 minutes to go? And I used to think, yeah, that's a brilliant, great different dimension type striker. That for me is what Kai Havertz should be next season. No, I'm playing an attacking 8 or in the 10. None of this rubbish. Go and play him up top. Bring him on when it's needed. Start him in the League Cup games, FA Cup games if you must. But for me, he has to be the backup number 9 now. I can't see him dropping back into midfield, man. That's just my opinion. Some people like him there. I don't think it works for me. But look, guys, I've got to shoot. Big up to all of you.
Yes,
make sure you hit the like and subscribe.
Dan, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much for coming on, mate. It's a pleasure as always and good to see you. Thanks for your input.
Yes, see you later.
Come on, man. Big up, guys. See you next time.
Cheers. Take care. So we are going to now be bringing in Liv into the fold. So, Liv, how are we doing?
Liv, how are you?
Good. How are you guys? Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, good.
Absolute pleasure. Thanks for coming on. So we have been talking, I know you've been listening backstage. We've been talking about Arsenal's season, how it's been. Obviously, you've been to the Emirates quite a bit, the mood and the vibe around there. And obviously, it's been a bit of an indifferent season. Obviously, no silverware. How have you found this season?
I'll start off with just, the vibe and the mood in the stadium itself. I think I've been quite vocal about that during this season. It's been poor mostly for me, but the fans haven't had a lot to shout and sing about, and it's a give relationship. We work off each other, so I'm not going to come and start going, the fans need to be better and this and that. There's holes in this team. There's lack of ambition with the owners, and I think you're sort of left at the end of the season sort of with that feeling of what could have been had we have done, we were more savvy with our recruitment in summer, and then we had a chance to sort that out in January and we didn't, and the fans were disappointed, and I weren't expecting to go to the stadium after that and be hearing the best vibe and the best support. It's been pretty grim for a lot. And I don't think it's been absolutely appalling and an absolute disaster like I know a lot of people do feel. But for me, I just think, this summer now, we all know what needs to be done. We need to go, I think we've got a lot of money.
What does need to be done?
Well, I think I've seen today we've got 177 mil.
Do you know what? You've just put me to it. I was just literally about to read out a statement saying we have just amassed 177,800,000 in prize money across the 2025 campaign, having finished second in the Premier League, made it to the semi-finals of the Champions League and the Carabao Cup, and exited the FA Cup in the third round. So, yeah, how does that leave you feeling?
For me, it's just there's no excuses now. We've got Berta now. I think I'm really excited to see what he's going to do. I'll be interested to see how the relationship with him and Mikel is, and who gets the last say with recruitment wise. I think I'm hearing that Mikel's more leaning towards Sesko, whereas Berta was more leaning towards Gyokeres. For me, Gyokeres is definitely the answer here. I'm not going to lie, I was a little bit livid when I heard that it's most likely going to be...
Liv got livid.
Look, I'm not saying Sesko's a bad player. He's a great player, but he's a young player, and a year or two ago that would have suited us brilliantly. But I think now's the time. We need an older, experienced player that's going to hit the ground running. We don't have time for any more projects. By the time you maybe built up Sesko to his maximum capabilities, or when he reaches his full potential, we might, if we don't get any silverware this season coming, we might lose people, and then we'll have to start again in those areas we've solidified, like the back line. And I just think now we've got to just get experienced players that are going to hit the ground running. And for me, another big thing we've got to leave this cautious, overcoached, sideways football behind. We have to. And I think some of the best football we've seen this team play was on the back of last season, and it was free-flowing, creative, do you know what I mean? And individuals were shining. And I just feel, I can understand that maybe Arteta's looked at that and gone, look, such fine margins, and he's thought the answer was to, you know, crack down and, you know, really just be a bit more careful and cautious. But I think we've all seen that that's not worked, so that's got to stop as well.
Definitely. So just had a super chat come in. Thank you very much, Adam Greet, for the super chat. So Adam says that Arteta doesn't want Gyokeres. Arteta can't manage big personalities, Ozil, Aubameyang. I would love Rodrigo, but we'll end up with Semenyo or Matoma. Really interesting super chat, because look, obviously Rodrigo is a very exciting player. He can play across the front three. He's electric, Brazilian, like that classic sort of Brazilian footballer. For me, I like Semenyo. I think he's a good footballer. Is he as good as Rodrigo? You know, it's how a player will fit into Arsenal Football Club. But the one thing I definitely saw with Semenyo is when every time I've watched him, he's been a very impactful player. He's very explosive. He gets into good positions. He gets in behind the back line. He drives through. He plays balls into the box, and he's that player that I think in some ways we've been missing. I mean, Matoma has been quite hit and miss for Brighton. I mean, I think last season he was a lot better, and he was explosive. And this is the thing with wingers. I mean, form does come and go. Now, Kenya, I want to come to you with this. What do you think about this big personality situation? Because I have heard this before, and I do get it. And obviously, when you're at Arsenal Football Club, you've got to be able to deal with all comers. You really have, whether Thierry Henry walks in the door or, you know, Dave from down the road. You've got to be able to manage whoever is in front of me. And if they're a top tier player, you need to have it in your locker to be able to deal with it. How do you feel on that?
I feel like with Aubameyang, from what we know anyways, what was reported was he kept, you know, as we need to remember, he was a captain, and things like, I loved Aubameyang a lot. I was actually really sad that he left the club. I didn't really like the whole situation, and it was at a time where we needed him. He was our best player, and he was, you know, iced out. But things like, you know, he wasn't professional off the pitch. So, you know, they alleged that he was always late. Him and Arteta not getting along, and I'm not saying it was the right decision. I'm not saying that I supported it at the time, but I understood why it happened. Ozil played that whole season before he left.
Yeah.
So I don't really know about that. And then in terms of, you look at someone like Granit Xhaka was a massive personality.
Yeah.
And sometimes his personality wasn't funneled in the right way, but Mikel Arteta was able to change that around for him, where we saw under Unai, we saw under Wenger, where that big personality actually cost us in a lot of games, but Mikel Arteta was able to bring the best out of him. We actually saw he became one of our most important players in that Mikel Arteta time. And, you know, I think even, I'm not saying that these players are of anywhere as close, but someone like Trossard, we've heard Mikel Arteta say already, he's always complaining. He's always getting annoyed with me because he wants to start, he wants to play. And he talks about how much he likes that, how he thrives off that. And that's actually good, because he actually enjoys hearing his players, you know, say, manager, why am I not playing, etc. So I do think, I mean, it's a valid point. But I just personally feel like, look, in football, you're going to get a mixture of personalities. You're not going to get a guy who's you're not going to get someone who's a Saka, who's very humble, very quiet, maybe won't say much or question much. Sometimes you are going to get a very outspoken voice, but it's about how you deal with that and how you're able to fit that into the team. And I just feel like, look, so far, maybe barring those two that chat mentioned, I mean, that everyone else, I can't really say that personalities as of recent has been our issue. It's been more of, we probably have not enough personality because we're not signing enough people. That's how I see it. But yeah. Cool.
So before I bring in the artillery, the heavy duty, so it's going to be coming in. Liv, how do you see with Mikel Arteta and him managing these egos? I mean, obviously at a football club, footballers full stop, obviously these guys are on huge amounts of money. They're, you know, they've got everyone literally kissing the ground they walk on. You know, they're adored, they're loved, and, you know, it's going to go to your head, right? And, you know, some of the best footballers that I've met as well have been really grounded guys, and it must be a hard situation. So how do you think Mikel Arteta has dealt with the big names, the Aubameyangs, the Ozils, and moving forward? Do you think it's true in what some people say, that he finds it hard to and struggles to deal with those sorts of characters?
I don't know if it's him struggling exactly. I feel like with Aubameyang, you know, he has his principles. You know, you can't be late to training, you can't do these sorts of things, and he stands by them. And for me, that's why I was worried about when we were, you know, getting linked with Osimhen, for example. He's a big personality. He's got a massive ego, just to be frank about it. And I don't think
Just
that
stick it out there.
I don't think that would have been a great fit for the team, just because, you know, the way Mikel Arteta is. But it does come down to the individual, and there's levels to it. And I'd say Osimhen's like right up there, and I'd say Trossard, he gets a bit stroppy as well, but I wouldn't say it's like, you know, he won't come out in the press and, you know, slag off the manager or anything like that. It's manageable. And I just think, yeah, it's down to the individual. But I do think Arsenal as a team, we do suit, you know, less of that sort of egotistical vibe. And I think we're more of a family team, a community team, and a team rather than an individuals team. And I think Arteta is like holds the same philosophy in that way.
Do you know what? And Liv, you bring up a really good point. I mean, I've been around Arsenal Football Club for years and years, and you know, one thing I love about them is their tradition. If you ask, you know, professional players, ex-Man U players, you know, Chelsea players, whatever, one thing I will say about Arsenal Football Club is it's steeped in tradition, and one of the clubs that holds those traditions in the highest order. And certainly I wouldn't like players coming out slandering the manager, and I don't like managers coming out slandering the players either individually. I don't think in life that's it's a good way round it. And I don't think it's a good look, especially for our football club. But there's got to be a way to manage it. Obviously, you know, the players need pressure put onto them, but there's, I think, definitely a way of doing it. So I believe we've got Stripto waiting backstage. I am now going to bring him into the fold. How are you doing, my man?
Yo, what's going on, peeps? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, loud and clear, mate. Live and direct.
Yes. Kenya, Marty, and Livs, what's going on? You good?
Yeah, good, man.
All good,
cool.
mate.
Yeah,
All
man.
good. How you doing? You all right?
Yeah, I'm good, man. I'm good. Just caught up to that super chat. The talking about the big personality and stuff, and I was just thinking to myself, like, like, what is big personality? Is it someone that's good at football, or someone who's got a shitty attitude? Like, what does that ever mean? Like, it needs to be defined, because who wants to deal with somebody that's difficult? Like, who really want, in any aspect of your life, do you want to deal with someone that's difficult? And people say it like, oh, he doesn't like to deal with difficult people. Who wants to deal with difficult people? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, you want to come and prepare your team and make sure there's chemistry, make sure there's unity, and send them out on the pitch, and hopefully they all carry out your message and your philosophy. Do you know what I'm saying? We've had players who, at the time at Arsenal, what perhaps might have been like the best player. Like, they knew they were the best player. Let's talk about the time when we had Sanchez. But Sanchez wasn't himself a difficult player. He was just a player that wanted more from the club, wanted players of his quality all around the squad, you know. And then you got players like Aubameyang, who was a good player but wasn't professional. And who wants to deal with that? I don't understand. I always see comments like that talking about, oh, Arteta doesn't want to deal with. Why would you want to deal with someone who's difficult? Do you know what I'm saying? Irrespective of your quality, irrespective of your quality. If you look at the greatest managers in the world, they don't tolerate that. No manager tolerates that. No one tolerates that. Let's talk about Fergie with Yap Stam. Let's talk about Fergie with David Beckham. They all got the boot, because no one that's going to go against the grain.
Roy Keane, mate.
No one's going to go against the grain. Do you know? And Roy Keane, he's captain. You know, there's things set, and anyone that breaks it got to go. And people make it out like it's a bad thing, but at the end of the day, a manager's there to manage. They're not there to. It's not. What's the thing in school again? Common room. It's not common room. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, and that's for me. Like, that's where I look at it. I'm like, when I see those things, I'm like, what's that about? Like, it's a bit nuts.
I feel like even if you think about Aubameyang, the whole reason Aubameyang joined us is because he fell out with the guys at Borussia Dortmund because of bad behavior, because of turning up late. So in terms of Abba, you can say that this is a guy that he has struggled with those things in other clubs. And
exactly.
You know, you can't just say, oh, it's just an Arteta thing, when actually that in terms of Aubameyang, he was a reoffender in that sense. So you
daily offender.
And do you know what? For me, as a manager of as a manager of anything, if I'm honest with you, whether you're a manager of a local sweet shop or you're a manager of the biggest national organisation, corporation in the world, timekeeping, discipline, and being all over. The dotting the I's and crossing the T's are important, because otherwise you get a culture of basically no one cares and everyone does what the hell they want to do. And obviously at a football club, when you're going for Premier Leagues, Champions League, and big competitions, and there's a huge amount of money, if you've got one player going against the grain, turning up late, thinking he can do whatever he wants to do, that is just not a good look, and you need to stamp down on that stuff double lively. Otherwise, there will be problems, and you'll be making a rod for your own back, because that stuff can get out of control. So,
you know what we need? Sorry, Marty. Sorry. What we need more than anything? Like people conflate it. We need a maverick. Now, a maverick doesn't necessarily mean someone who is going against the grain, so to speak. But you need someone like, I think, like a Bruno Fernandes, for example. And I mentioned Alexis Sanchez, someone who just wants to be center of attention. That's not a bad thing. If you think about the game against PSG we played at Paris, we was crying out for someone that could just give the ball and just do something different. Here, take the ball, shoot from 35 yards. Oh my God, top corner, top bins. That's what we're crying out for. It's not necessarily, someone with a mad ego. Like Messi's probably one of the best players in the world. You never hear nothing really bad about him and his ego. He walk into that's not even a fact. That's not even a lie. He walks into any football institution in the world, wherever there's a ball being kicked and there's an audience and there's 11, Messi walks into that. No attitude. Do you know what I'm saying? So we need a maverick. We need someone that is just different. That would, maybe can still keep to the chemistry and the overall cohesion of the team, but is willing to put his neck out and doesn't hide. Just give it to me. Even if I get it wrong, at least I tried. I think that's what we lack. I think we've got too many robotic players, if you know what I'm saying. Like no one that wants to sort of break the mold a bit. I think that's what we're lacking. I think just one of those on top of what we've got. I think we definitely be more than challenging. I think we'll definitely get over the line.
So Stricto, I've asked everyone else this. Obviously, in the summer, money-wise, transfer-wise. Obviously, you've said before that you support Mikel Arteta, and you like him as a manager of the football club. What do you think he needs to do, i.e., in the summer and moving forward next season?
It's no secret. He does need to deliver. He does need to deliver. And I also think he needs to deliver big this coming season. So the question is, what does he need? He needs the tools. And the tools doesn't just lie in just getting a striker. I think if you look overall at our season, if you look at our left side, I think one issue we haven't addressed actually is our imbalance, which is we've always had this issue where when Abba was there, the left side was very good, but the right side wasn't. And then when he's left, the right side's good, but the left side isn't. So we haven't always had that balance. And I think if we can address it where we're firing on all fronts, left, right, and in the center, then that gives us a greater chance, because it's too right dependent, and I think it's at times can be predictable. It's easy to mark Odegaard because Odegaard doesn't drift into the middle. He always seems to go out to the right and find Saka and Ben White or Uran Timber. So I think what Arteta needs to do is possibly help himself by balancing the forward line. So that means the left is contributing as much as the right, or even in the middle. Defensively, I think we're all right. Defensively, we've got players who are jack of all trades, if you want, multi-positioned, players that can play centre back and fullback. So I think defensively we're all right. In the middle, I think definitely we need a 10-ish. Because Odegaard's not a 10, I don't think. I've seen him long enough to actually say I don't think he's a 10. In fact, I know he's not a 10. So if we can get sort of someone that's, you know, like a Cunha, for example. I know United are sort of struggling getting that deal over the line because of the payment structure. Make statements, Mikel, Berta, make statements. Go there, hijack it. Make statements. Like everyone wants to come to London. London's, you're not playing Manchester for. Manchester's dead. Come London, Oxford Street, Knightsbridge, all them things in London. Like there's a big Brazilian community in Vauxhall. Come there. Do you know what I'm saying? Like everything's set, and I think things like that you could really, really make a statement. Champions League football, you know. I think things like that get us over the line, bro. And I think Arteta has to deliver, and I think he has to deliver big because I haven't backed him for him to just win a Carabao Cup. You know, I want the big boys. If it's Carabao Cup alongside an FA Cup, all right, cool. Or as a Carabao Cup alongside a Premier League or cool. You know, but I just don't want. I'm not snubbing a trophy. I'm not. But I really think if I'm gonna wait this long, I'm not gonna just wait for just that. Do you know what I'm saying?
Do you know what, Stripto? You bring up a really good point. And if there was any time for Arsenal Football Club to hijack a deal against Manchester United, it would be now, because Manchester United got £1 billion worth of debt, unserviced debt, and they pay £50 million a year just in interest to service that debt. So how are they going to afford a player like Cunha? For me, I've said it all season long. I love him because, again, he's another front three player. You know, he's a versatile player. He's that pull the rabbit out the hat kind of guy on the edge of the box when you need some magic, break down a team with a low block, bang the balls in the top corner before you know it. And yeah, there have been reports that he's got like a big attitude or a big ego and stuff like that. And but do you know what? I love that, and we've been talking about that stuff. I love that in players sometimes, that, you know, they need a bit of attitude, they need a bit of swaz, they need a bit of a swagger about them to be able to, you know, to add something different. It's that mix. It's having that great mix. So Kenya, what do you?
Yes.
What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I'm not against Matheus Cunha at all. I really like Matheus Cunha, but he shouldn't be our first piece of business. Yeah. I actually think Matheus Cunha actually is the perfect example of where we've probably not done business right in the past, in the sense that we've bought a fantastic player who can play in a lot of positions, but maybe have not gone for the first thing that is actually the most alarming thing. In my opinion, the striker is what is needed. If we get the striker and you get Zubimendi and then you go in for Cunha, I'll be like, cool, I'm very happy with that because he's a fantastic player. But I just think he shouldn't be our first piece of business if that's what the club want to do. I mean, Andrea Berta was the one that got him to Atletico Madrid, so he knows him well. We know what he can do. He can do it in the Prem. I think he scored about 15 goals this season. That's fantastic. I mean, Man United, they're broke. What are they going to, you know, us today? They're trying to pay it over 5 years. Wolves are saying, nah, we want that in 2. We got the money. Like, I don't want us to, this summer is not a summer of being broke. It's a summer of splashing the cash. I don't want to see where we don't want to pay that extra million because, no, you have the money. We're going to sell players. Look at the amount of money that we've got in prize money from all the competition. You mentioned it earlier. Was it 180 mil or something like that? That's money. That's a striker money. And then some. There's no like money, spend. Like, it's, to me, it's simple. If you want to get
sound like my Mrs. Kenya.
Look, my dad knows me. I hate stingy people. I hate being broke. That's not what we should be. And we're one of the most sustainable clubs in the country, if not in Europe. Go and spend the money. Matheus Cunha, I'm not against it. But make sure first, before you get Matheus Cunha, make sure it's a Gyokeres. Make sure it's a Zubimendi. Make sure the actual problem areas are sorted first. If you want to go get him, cool. I'm not against it.
Nice. What do you think, Liv? Liv? Gyokeres? Liv?
Sorry. I'm hearing everyone except for you, Marty, maybe. You're back.
Oh, he just asked, what do you think about the... Yeah, what do you think about it?
What, of Cunha specifically?
Yeah.
Look, I'm a massive fan of his. I was well for it in January, and I know a lot of people weren't, and I couldn't quite understand why. And I thought in January he would have been perfect, where he can play number 9, can play number 10, he can play on the left. But I completely agree with Kenya here. It's summer now. It's time to spend the big bucks. Players.
Would you, Liv? What do you think of the Thomas Partey contract extension situation? Do you think that we need him, or would you go in for someone else?
Well, you still have to get someone else with him still being here, because he's obviously so injury prone, and let's be honest, he's not been injured the whole season. He's bound to get injured this coming season. So regardless of if you sell him or you keep him, extend or whatever, you still have to get, you know, another 6, because you can't rely on him for the whole season, just him in that position. So it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, now of course, just something I want to ask you both, all of you guys, right? So obviously the outgoings with Zinchenko going and Tierney going, right? The one thing for me is both of those players have played important roles at times when literally we've had Luis Skelly suspended, or we have had Calafiori out injured. So if both of those players go, do we? I know this sounds crazy. Do we need to get another defender?
Yes. I personally think we're going to lose Zinchenko. We're going to lose, who else? Kieran Tierney. We might lose Jakub Kiwior. Miles Lewis-Skelly is going to save, that kid's going to save us a lot of money. Let's get that right. But you still want to be covered. I don't know what the future of Tomiyasu's like. There's rumors that they might, if their offers come in, they might look to offload someone like him who's actually been very injury prone as well. And it's a question of, can we rely on him next season, when this season he played 7 minutes? Do you know what I mean? That's quite a number. So to me, you can't, just because we've spent a lot in that area doesn't mean that we should now just turn around, and we shouldn't just do what we've done this time round, in the sense that we've looked at the defense like, right, we're going to bolster this. Let's just ignore the attack. We shouldn't do that this summer and say, we're just going to get the attack. Let's not look at other areas where we can strengthen the whole team, because you never know when, God forbid, someone might be injured or someone might be suspended, where you might need to call on the likes of another defender, or you might want to put Miles in his actual position, which is in midfield, and then you actually need somebody else to play there, or you want to play a different style of play. You might want someone like Kieran Tierney, who's wicked at crosses and great at overlapping. So I personally think we need to go into this season with as many options as possible. This small squad, thin squad's rubbish. I hate that. Get rid of that. We need people. And you look at the best teams, look at PSG that beat us. Their strength in depth is incredible.
Yeah.
No Dembele. You got this, you got Doué. No Doué, you got Kvaratskhelia. No Kvaratskhelia, you got Barcola. No Barcola, you got Ramos. Like, this is what we need. We need this in all areas of the pitch. So to me, just because, you know, we've spent a lot on defense doesn't mean that if the opportunity arises that we should ignore it, in my opinion. It's something that should be bolstered.
Very well said. So I'm just going to read out a super chat here from Amazon. So hope Berta shows his experience and help out Arteta. We can clearly see Arteta shows his inexperience at times, and that costed us. Edu was a yes man. Stripto, talk to me.
What, for that super chat, or with Tierney and them not going?
With that super chat.
Put that back up again, sorry. Let me see.
So hope Berta shows his experience and helps out Arteta. We can clearly see Arteta shows his inexperience at times, and that costed us. Edu was a yes man. Do you agree with that?
I think we can definitely say Edu and Arteta definitely was probably more of a friendship, business relationship, which sometimes can't be productive, because you might need a bit of professional friction, and I don't think, from what I heard, there was enough of that. You know, they probably were agreeing with each other all the time, and you know, life doesn't always work better that way. Sometimes you do need a bit of balance, a bit of different opinion, and I think Berta has been brought to be business only. I'm not here to be nobody's friend. I'm here to just get my work done. My reputation's it's on the line. I'm not here to mess that up. You know, I've worked with Diego Simeone, which we all know is a ticking time bomb for the most part. So he's someone who I think, if Arteta is serious, could help Arteta, and Arteta should welcome his help and his knowledge. So yeah, for sure, 100%. I think that's a good chat from the super chat. Also, I think with Tini and Zinchenko going, those areas we're not really sure of, but I think it might be a great chance for us to promote someone from the youth, from the academy, maybe like a Josh Nichols, who's been sort of in and around, waiting. We see him at the international friendlies and stuff. It would be good to sort of maybe promote him, because we saw what happened when we brought Miles Lewis Skelly in, and we've got that sort of, did we really need Calafiori when we had someone like Skelly in the academy? So maybe we might, in that area, bring one of the academy players up. And like Kenya said, I think we've got to start signing strikers, man. I don't want to see another defender again before a striker. I want to see something a bit different, you know. So let's just use this opportunity. All right, cool. Tini's gone, but promote someone. I've seen Josh Nichols personally. I think he's an excellent fullback. Very technical, very quick. Might be the smallest, but listen, we've seen players who are small who know how to navigate through difficult physical challenges.
Zachary Sanyo is a good example.
Right, exactly. So I think in that area we should maybe look to promote someone from the academy up. But I think overall, Berta is here. He's put his reputation on the line. This is the biggest transfer window Arsenal have got. And personally, I'm a bit disappointed that we haven't signed no one. Like, we haven't really got into it yet, because it's starting to feel like I've been here before. You know, every day checking Transfer Daily with Robbie, and like Robbie doing doing a madness with the Transfer Dailies. Do you know what I'm saying? I want someone now. Like, I want it. Like, I want something close. You know. When does
the window actually open?
It's open now, isn't it? The window's
it's not. I think it's next week.
I think next week it opens for the Club World Cup, and then it closes for like a week, and then it reopens again.
Oh, okay, yeah, they've redone
and
it.
I'm completely with you on that as well. Is I want to see the second that window opens, I want to see names being signed, and I ain't buying no club merchandise, nothing until I see a number 9. I want to see a Victor Gyokeres in an Arsenal kit, and a Zubimendi, and another a number 10 or a front 3 player. Once those 3 players land, they're the 3 players for me that I want. Ryan's just told me it's the 1st of June, so that opens. And as soon as they're landed and they're in Arsenal shirts, then I'll go and buy probably. I quite like the away kit, but I've just got a super chat here. Let's say from Howard, thanks for sending that in, mate. So let's say as Tottenham won Europa but were relegated, are they still able to play in the Champions League the following season? They can, The answer to that is they can, but playing from the Championship in the Champions League. Now that would be a very, very interesting proposition. The one thing, I don't know if you guys noticed that, but Tottenham are the only team to finish the season after losing, I think, 22 games and finishing with 38 points that have never been relegated.
Yeah, in top flight history of our league. They're disgraces.
It's crazy.
That is absolutely Spursy.
So I just want to touch on this as well, because this has been something I want to know. Definitely, I want to know your opinions on it, right? So Tottenham obviously finishing where they are. Basically, if the season had started a bit later, they would have ended up being relegated. If they weren't so fortunate with being in and around company of Southampton, one of the worst ever Premier League teams, just behind Derby. I think it was 11. Was it 11 points that Derby team got?
Yeah.
And obviously the low points with Ipswich and Leicester. They could have ended up being like serious. Those serious contenders. On another season, they would have been relegated. Right, so their league form has been absolutely diabolical, but they've kicked on, and won a Europa League. The one thing I do like about that is it looks like Angie's going to stay, and obviously if this form continues, they could potentially get relegated, and along with Manchester United as well. And obviously, there's no way Gyokeres is going to Manchester United, because let's have it right, that place is falling apart pretty quick. Kenya.
Yes.
What do you think? Do you think if you want to level Arsenal's season, obviously finishing second, semi-final of the Champions League, playing top quality opponents, as in Real Madrid, PSG, all of that, but obviously we didn't get any silverware. Do you think that they've had a better season than us?
Right. Me and Ryan had this argument before.
I'm going to ask you to sorry,
terminology.
before you go firing away on this, get yourself prepared, live in Stricto, because the same question applies to you. Because this is a very interesting question where people stand here. Fire away, Kenya.
Right. The terminology of this question has to be right. Better, no. Successful, yes.
Okay.
You can, in terms of what they've done, they've been more successful because they've won the trophy. Better, no.
Yep.
And one key thing that stood out to me is I watched that final, right? The final, awful quality. I watched the championship playoffs. That was 10 times better. But one thing that stood out to me is that both sets of managers after that final, the first things they said was what we've done in the league has not been good enough. They both almost appealed to their boards to say, I want to keep my job. Brennan Johnson, the guy that scored the goal, he literally said, this is just us trying to repay the fans for the terrible season that we've had. So when you have players that play for both of those respective teams, when you've got the managers saying, please keep me, essentially, you've got Ange saying, oh, what would happen for season 3 of the season if you stick with me? It would be even better. When you've got those managers literally begging for their jobs, is that a better season?
Stick with me, yeah.
Yeah. To me, that's not a better season. A club of those two clubs should feel embarrassed and ashamed. Those clubs should never, ever, ever be in those relegation places. We all laughed at Chelsea for finishing 10th. Spurs did it. Spurs picked up 1 point against Leicester. They drew at home to Leicester. They drew away to Leicester, and they lost at home to Leicester. They lost at home to Ipswich. Like, this is just, it's embarrassing. So better season, no. Successful season, yes. That's how I see it.
Kenya, I think you might have mic dropped that one, but go on, Liv. Let's hear your thoughts around this. What do you think? Have Spurs had a better season than Arsenal?
I struggle to add to that because I think Kenya has hit the nail on the head there, but better, absolutely not. Absolutely not. How can you compare? You can't compare when, you know, okay, the reason we have this conversation because they won the Europa League, right? We're not in the Europa League. And they'll say to us, you know, oh, well, you was in the Europa League before and you didn't win it. Well, how long have you been in the Premier League? Do you know what I mean? So I'm not having any of that, Marty, mate. I won't have it.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Stricto, what were you saying on this?
Yeah, basically what these two have said, basically. I think it's hard to disagree. And you have to look at it in real time. You know, I think hindsight, we can look back and say, yeah, they've had a successful season. But in real time, how many heartaches have they had throughout the whole season?
Yeah.
How many times have they wanted their managers out? Both.
Tottenham 22 times.
Right. So we've seen over the course of the season where fans have actually physically had a go at Ange. We've seen those footages. So we can't ignore those things because there was a reason why fans were digging them out and we're doing it on a regular basis. You know, I can't, so many times that players have had to sort of get in between Ange and fans. So you can't tell me that we should ignore that and say, yeah, Tottenham have had a better season. You know, because in real time, game by game, in the league, in the cup, you know, they've been spanked. Same with United. And you know what you could say, and this is neither their fault, but the way the Champions League format was this season, no one dropped into the Europa. That would have actually stopped them going any further because, let's be honest, none of these teams were that good. And if you look at the level of opponents, they both played on their path to the final. It's laughable. I'm not going to take it away from them, but I'm just giving you what would have probably changed the dynamic of their season, because if they would have played against a top 5 team from Europe, they would have both struggled. So in real time, both teams have suffered. In real time, fans have wanted both their managers out. And like Kenya said, both managers are both trying to campaign to get another run next season. And that tells you something about their season overall. Yes, they've been successful in a competition they participated in. They were successful in that. But other than that, it's been a woeful season. You know, bar the fact Southampton, Leicester, and Ipswich have been so poor. These lot could have been dragged in the relegation, easily been dragged in the relegation battle. Easily. It's not even. It's nothing but facts. Do you know what I'm saying? Like any other season, these two are, one of them is going down.
Relegated. They're relegated. It's as simple as that. They're done.
It's simple as
They're
that.
out the door. Trap door.
And you can see it to the point where, like, if it was one of, okay, say for example, we played Southampton last game of the season, right?
Yeah.
We could have let Southampton win if it meant United had to go down. Like we didn't. Do you know what I'm saying? We could have played that sort of thing where, like, we didn't start with a full strength team, you know, against Southampton, and they've just been so lucky, United and Tottenham. They've just been so lucky. So yeah, answer the question. Kenya's just set it off right. Successful? Yes. Better? No.
Fantastic. Look, good stuff. So I'm going to ask production to put up that last super chat. And before I read that out, Kenya, Stricto, Liv, how can everyone follow you on socials?
You can follow me on Instagram at Kenya Lyle. That's where I'm at. Yeah. Check me out on AFTV. Simple.
Yeah, me. You can follow me on Instagram or follow me on YouTube. Stricto Strict. Where's the camera? Stricto Strict on YouTube, and then on Instagram, Stricto. You find me there. You know the look, purple hoodie and the jacket. You know the look already. Hot dog man, whatever you want to call it. Whatever you want to call me this week. So yeah, I'm there.
Love that. And Liv.
Yeah, I'm just on Insta really, Olivia M Simpson, but hopefully I'll be making more appearances on AFTV. I think I'm going to start TikTok soon, so watch out for that.
Watch out for Liv dropping on TikTok. Look, thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much to everyone that put the super chats. Is there one last super chat from production for them? So, that's it. So
hey, elbow him. Don't push him. Just elbow him next time.
Yeah. I'm getting ambushed by a 4-year-old. So Spurs won a trophy. We didn't. Nothing to show for the season. What makes it better is the actualization of success, a trophy. The league is important to stay in business. That is all. So on that note, that is all. Thank you very much to my guests, Kenya, Stricto, Liv. You've been absolutely awesome. Thank you to you guys that have put in chats, super chats, and tuned in tonight. I hope you've enjoyed the show with our absolutely amazing guests. Please check out AFTV for more content coming up. Transfer Daily with Robbie. Please like, subscribe, all of that old jazz. Please get involved. Thank you very much for watching, and thank you for being kind on my debut. He loves it on my debut on AFT. Thank you. I hope I've come correct and done very well. So, look, thank you very much, guys. Without further ado, take care. Peace out. Be safe, and I will see you very soon.
Hi, we've teamed up with UK Auto Claims to see if you could be eligible to score thousands in compensation. If you've had any cars, vans or motorbikes on finance between 2007 and 2021, go to ukautoclaims.co.uk to start your free simple check. Loads of you will have overpaid and payouts could be worth thousands, so you've got to look into it. Hit up the link below and check now for free.